I'm Anna from Eat, Move, Be Happy, about to be joined by Martha from... I think I just disappeared again. My internet is a little bit strange. Anyway, I am back. Here's Martha from Eat, Move, Be Happy as well. And Movement Not Miracles is your bite-sized version of ways to look after your posture, keep your joints moving and healthier, and keep those muscles from stiffening up, to ward off some of those aches and pains that we can get from staying in one position for too long. So I thought today we would do some mindful movement, help set you up for the weekend or the end of the week, or for the start of the day, whenever you happen to be experiencing this. Mindfulness in general is a good skill to practice. So my opinion on mindfulness is that it's more about just being aware of what's going on for you in the moment. So I guess you could call it a form of meditation. I'm sure there are some mindful experts out there that would call it something different. For me, it's about relaxing and about being calmer, both in my body and in my mind. And relaxing has been a bit of a theme for me this week. So I have discovered if I can relax a little bit more, then I am more positive and I can perform better, whatever that is, even in just thinking. But I feel less tense and less anxious about things. And if you're not overthinking stuff, certainly in my experience, then it means I get a lot more done. Martha's very attentive, so she's obviously ready to be a little bit mindful. So I thought we'd start off. I happen to be sitting on the floor. You can do this seated or you can do it standing. It might be interesting to do it in a different position than the one that you've started off in or spent most of the day in. And I've been sitting at my desk for a good portion of the day. So I'm now sitting cross-legged on the floor. So just sitting cross-legged, if you can, is good for your hips because it changes the position of your thigh bones and connecting with your hips, which is good for a start. So you get a bit more movement out of your hips. But I'm just going to sit nice and tall, relaxing through my knees, through my hips, and sitting up out of my pelvis. So if I show you from the side, I'm not sitting on the fleshy part of my bum, sort of all rounded and slumped. I'm sitting up on the bones of my bottom, and my back is hopefully nice and straight and tall. So I'm actually working through the muscles in my core to maintain that posture. And straight away, I'm also thinking of shoulders back and down. So my shoulders are away from my ears. My face is relaxed, my jaw is relaxed, and my shoulders are relaxed. Let me turn back to the front so I can see you. So although this is work, I'm not just slobbing in this position. I am still relaxed through my body. And to start off with, I'm just going to think of shoulders back and down and just sitting nice and tall, and a couple of normal breaths. So no deeper than you would normally do, but just inhaling and exhaling, and notice what happens in your body. So I'm just going to be quiet for a moment whilst we do that. And the first thing that I notice is that I do have to work quite hard to stay sitting upright. I do want to sort of collapse down like this. And the minute I do that, actually, I can feel my back starting to ache. So sitting up nice and tall is a good start point for me. You might have heard Martha purring there, so she's obviously fairly relaxed. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move through my neck. So turning to look one way, and then turning to look the other way. Now I'm not forcing my head round, and I'm not changing the position of my body. So we'll go back one way. So I'm still working quite hard through my core and concentrating on sitting up out of my pelvis. So hopefully I've not slouched down. And then I'm just going to let my head drop forwards and rest your chin on your neck. Interestingly, I can feel this more in my hip flexors. So the muscles in the front of my hips, they appear to be working quite hard because they're in a different position than normal. And just letting my chin drop forwards, that's quite nice. I can feel that releasing the tension in the back of my neck. Okay, and then I'm just going to take my hands behind my back and squeeze my shoulder blades together and stretch across the front of my chest. Now straight away, this wants to happen. So I am working quite hard to keep my knees down. So I'm squeezing my shoulder blades, keeping my shoulders away from my ears. Okay. Now I'm going to stand up and we're going to do some shoulder movement. So helping with posture and upper back. So standing, I'm doing these standing. If you are seated, you can stay seated. If you're seated in a chair, again, just recheck your starting position. Make sure you are sitting nice and tall on the bones of your bottom. If you're standing, just watch what's happening with your feet. We don't want our feet out, what I call duck feet. So that's an indication that your femurs are turned in the hip socket, which is not a bad thing, but if you're always doing that, it's useful to encourage a different rotation, and because we should be able to be balanced. So standing nice and tall, weight evenly distributed, and I'm just going to do some gentle shoulder rolls. So squeezing the shoulder blades together and getting some movement through my upper back and through my shoulder blades. And actually, just focus on your breathing whilst you're doing that. We can still be mindful whilst we are doing other things. So a lot of my mindfulness is either when I'm running or when I'm walking the dogs or when I'm running with the dogs. So when I'm doing other things, just paying attention to what's going on in that moment. So thinking about what's happening with the movement on your shoulders, what's happening with the rest of your body, rather than thinking about what are you going to have for dinner, or should I go make a cup of tea when I've done this. That's okay, because most of us do have busy stuff going on. So just notice what's going on in your mind and then bring yourself back to the moment and your shoulder rolls, and let the other thoughts drift away, or sit quietly in a corner of your mind. I'm just going to make my shoulder rolls a little bit bigger now. I need to move away from the wall, so it might chop my head off, don't worry. And then I'm just going to do a stretch across the front of the shoulders. So one arm behind the back, and you're going to cradle the arm with the other hand. So if I show you from behind. So I've got my left arm behind my back and I'm just supporting it with my right. My shoulders are back and down. So I can feel a nice stretch, not just across my chest, it's more into the front of my shoulders. So, and interestingly, I can feel it more in my right shoulder, although that's not the one that's stretching at the moment, but certainly for me, My right shoulder is the stiffer of the two. And again, I'm just going to do a couple of breaths and let this stretch evolve. Okay, I'm going to swap arms. So the other arm behind first, my right shoulder, which is definitely stiffer. So my shoulder wants to come forwards. I find it very difficult to get this shoulder back and down. I think it's a combination of general stiffness in my shoulders, poor flexibility over a number of years, and some injuries from playing, probably from playing a lot of netball, but believe me, it's better than it was. I'm just trying to keep that shoulder back and down and encourage that stretch. Okay, a bit of a tactical waggle there. I'm going to take it back to sitting cross-legged. If sitting cross-legged for you, I'm going to swap the cross on my leg as well. So my other leg is forwards this time. If that's a bit of an issue for you, then it could be because you don't do it very often, and that in itself might be worth a practice. But if your hips are stiff or your knees are stiff, then sometimes placing a towel or a tea towel or something so that your knees don't close it in quite so tightly, so that your knee is supported, it's not, the joint is not forced into as tight a move, can help. And then at least you still get the benefit for your hips. But just doing little and often, because sitting cross-legged is quite good for us from a hip perspective. And I'm just going to do a twist. So you can do this sitting in a chair, and if you can't cross your legs while sitting in a chair, that's fine. I'm just going to do a twist, so getting hold of one thigh with one hand. Sitting nice and tall before you start this, and then just gently, I'm pushing the floor away with the other hand. So I'm pushing in that direction. So I'm trying to bring this shoulder back around, and I'm keeping my shoulders away from my ears. And we're just going to hold. And each time we breathe out, can we twist a little more? And just what's happening with your legs. And what's happening in your mind. Focusing on breathing is a nice way of relaxing through your mind. And come back to the centre, and we'll go around the other way. And mindfulness is not about emptying your head. That's too, if you think you can't switch things off, but you can pay attention to what is going on in your head. I'm going to go the other way now, sitting nice and tall first. Ooh, this side's definitely stiffer. But it helps to focus on something, and focusing on your breath is a constant. So it's an obvious thing to focus on. Not changing your breathing particularly, just noticing the breath going in and out. And then I'm just going to do, I'll show you from the side. So we imagine we've got that netball sitting in our lap, and we're just going to round down. So you're getting a bit of a stretch through your back. So not just collapsing into it, imagine you're rounding down over that ball. And I'm thinking of arching my upper back up towards the ceiling, so I get a bit more stretch in that upper back, and my chin is just drop to my chest, like we did at the beginning. Sometimes just being quiet and not doing anything else. So not focusing on, not being on the laptop or reading anything or talking to anybody, just sometimes being quiet, even if it's for a very small amount of time, can really help. Just calm your mind and relaxing through your body. It's much easier to relax through your body if you can let go of some of the busyness in your mind. And like I said before, it's not about dumping it. It's not going to go away. It's just about putting it somewhere quietly until you're ready to pick it back up again. And that in itself is a skill to practice. So Movement Not Miracles will be back next Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. Get outside if you can. I think the weather is a little bit cooler than it has been the last couple of weekends. So wrap up warm. Stay safe, stay well, and I will see you next week.